Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the second episode of the Heroes and Mutants podcast. I'm Ruben here with my co-hosts Nick and Josh, and I'd
what's
like
up,
to
guys?
introduce you guys the newest member to our team, James. How you doing, James?
Pretty good. Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Awesome,
James,
awesome.
nice to have you here,
meet you, man. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
So last week we started off with introducing ourselves just a little bit, you know.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna go ahead and start by asking you, what got you so passionate about superheroes or comics?
Honestly, it was as a kid I used to watch Batman the animated series. It was
Good
a
show,
big
good show.
obsession,
Definitely.
and ever since then it just took off. For the record, I'm a little bit more of a DC than a Marvel guy, but
That's
I do
cool,
like
man.
Alright,
That's
don't
cool.
matter.
Everyone
Don't
has
matter.
their,
Yeah.
everyone has
Oh,
their
really?
own.
Yeah, I got Cap,
Okay,
but
cool.
still more DC.
Everyone
Yeah.
has their own favorite, you know.
Yeah.
Switching up to Marvel, just
So it's all Batman.
Preference,
And who would you
yeah.
say is your favorite superhero?
Batman.
Batman,
That's easy.
okay,
Yeah.
makes
Second
sense.
one
Yeah,
would be
Batman,
Spider-Man.
yeah.
though.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man is my
Okay,
second.
Stan
Well,
Lee's
what-
favorite
Hey,
superhero.
yeah.
What's
man.
what's the exact reason though?
Yeah.
Go into a little bit more
Let's
detail
go.
about that. Like,
I've always gravitated to the superheroes that are a little bit more troubled or more relatable. I guess that's why I like Batman and Spider-Man.
definitely.
I like Batman because he's such an untraditional superhero. It's just everything about him is self-made.
All right.
And I like Peter Parker because he's a lot more relatable as a character.
It's like a teenager,
Yeah,
you know.
it's
what
like
I'm
a
saying?
teenager.
High
goes through
school,
all
yeah.
that
Mhm.
teen angst and all those like regular like having to have a regular job, go to school,
Yeah.
keep up his relationships with MJ and the other women, like and
It's
But,
it's
uh,
also
still-
pretty realistic too, his personal
Yeah.
life. So I
Yeah,
always
that's
thought
what
that
makes.
was
That's why a
pretty
lot
I
of people
think-
like Batman, you know, because
Mhm.
he's like.
well, I think with
human being, no
Spider-Man, it's just
powers.
that thing of like responsibility, like
Just
you know,
feeling
to-
like you have all the weight
is
over your shoulders.
Spider-Man is more relatable than Batman, but Batman is cooler. That makes sense.
yeah, rich.
Yeah.
Okay, it makes sense. That's cool, James. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you guys ready to dive into these topics that we have going
Yeah,
on
man,
today?
go for
Yeah,
it.
of course,
Let's
man.
go.
All
Let's do it.
right, awesome. So, what show that got canceled prematurely deserves another season? That you guys think? Anybody go for it?
It
I would-
wasn't a canceled show, but it did end in a way where I feel like they could have gone a little bit farther. So for me, the show I would have to choose is Gotham.
Gotham. Yeah, I love
Gotham,
that
I feel like the way it ended, they left so many questions unanswered. I honestly didn't really like how the suit fit the Batman at the end of the. I mean, sorry if I killed it for everybody who hasn't watched the show.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
It's
Spoilers.
already
Sorry
it's
about
already
that.
all over the internet. So I
Yeah,
think
It
it's
really
fine.
is,
yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
there's still fans that haven't figured it
That's
out.
true.
So sorry about that.
And the
guys.
actor who portrayed him wasn't even able to fit the suit.
Yeah,
either.
yeah,
That's
Dave
what sucked about
Matthews.
that.
though,
Well, they had like
Kid
another
Bruce.
actor portray him. It wasn't even
Yeah, it
like I
wasn't-
think he,
no, it
he
wasn't.
did
He did
some
the
of the
voiceover.
voice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
but
did
it
the
wasn't. That's why
voiceover.
they shot it from like a distance, and you couldn't actually see his face and
Yeah,
all that.
I think the problem with that is that they were going to do more seasons, but it got canceled, so they had to shove everything.
Everything
in, so
in
there
the
was
last
going to be a
season.
lot less
Yeah.
resolved.
but
than if they had
honestly, I feel
gone
like
further.
that show was really good just because it was a whole different version of Batman. When we see the Batman series or we see the Batman movies, they're already all the villains are already stable. As
Mhm.
for this, we're seeing Bruce Wayne grow from a little kid to a teenager. Plus, we still get the side of all the villains. We get to see Fish Mooney before she's even
Mhm.
big. We
Who
get to
she
see
is, yeah.
Jeremiah Valeska before he becomes Joker. We see Penguin. We see Riddler. We get all these villains that we always knew. They were already like older. They already knew what they were doing. As
Right.
for now, we're just like they're learning the ropes. So it was very cool getting to see that perspective of the
Right.
show.
I never liked the direction they took Barbara Gordon on that show. That was
Me
such
either.
Barbara
so
Gordon,
weird
yeah,
and
it
so
was
with the
like-
off.
whole League of Assassins.
I'm-
After that was kind of
It didn't make sense.
it did not.
I'm okay with them changing certain things to fit, but that was such a huge stretch. I was like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
does
and
not.
they like made her out to
fit
be a
it.
psycho like in the first season, and she had like very big like she had like unresolved issues because she had to like kill her family. Like I don't know, and I just didn't like
Shit
this
is
whole thing that
crazy.
they
It
were
didn't
doing.
work.
Yeah, like
It
it
really
was just
did.
very weird. You're like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, like what are they like?
I stopped. I was like, is there a Barbara Gordon version of her where I'm missing where she's like this? I was like, I don't think
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
they
is.
completely
Well, it
went
wasn't
a
that's
whole
Barbara, it was
version.
like it was supposed to, she was supposed to be like his first Barbara Essen, I think it was. So it wasn't the actual Barbara Gordon, obviously, because that's obviously Gordon's daughter, but it's supposed to be like that first version of Barbara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's another take. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
What about you guys? Any show that you guys feel?
I was actually gonna say Gotham, but since you already took that, I'd say
Yeah, you took mine too. Don't worry about that, dude.
either Watchmen. I'll stick with one.
Wait,
I'll-
Watchmen got canceled?
It ended. They didn't exactly get canceled. It was only one season.
One
The most
season.
recent one, the one that
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Oh, so
HBO
there was-
series.
oh,
It's only been,
I wasn't
it was
even
only
aware it
one
got
season.
canceled. I thought it was
That's
like
crazy.
You know,
Let
it
'em-
was
let 'em-
really good, but it has an ending and the story kind of wraps itself up. So there's not really a need for a second season.
Wow, I hate when shows do that.
But it was so interesting that I was like, I would like to see where this goes in the second season.
The only
Okay,
thing
makes
about that
sense.
episode that was very weird was that you actually had to pay attention to the full episode starting from the beginning to the end. Because if you miss
Oh yeah.
3 minutes of the
Yeah,
time,
I didn't
it's
even
like you
catch any of
lose
it, to
at
be
least
honest.
1 to 2 seasons of the show. Like you have to catch up so fast. So that's a show you have to be like very like
Yeah, and they were
intentional.
doing a lot with Ozymandias' character and everything, and there was just a lot left up in the air about like wondering like if he even was like on another planet or something
Oh,
like
they
that.
resolved that
Like,
by the end.
well, I mean, yeah, I remember
Really?
seeing like the first 3 episodes, and I was
Dr.
like, okay,
Manhattan?
Oh yeah, they
this
resolve
is.
it
I'm
and
like,
make it.
this is going in a good direction, and like it felt like it was just trying to be its own thing. Like it was going to take inspiration from the comic, but also try to like what happens in like a future timeline. So I was interested in it. I didn't get around to watching the whole thing. I do now, and I thought there was going to be more seasons. So I was like, okay, I'll just catch up. Binge watch the first season when the second season comes out. I didn't even know that they canceled it.
I would check it out only because I like it more as a sequel to watch. I don't know if you read Doomsday Clock.
I
I
did
did
Yeah,
a
it was
couple of
it was
couple
interesting.
of those
It
series.
was okay, but I think that the show did a much better job of tapping back into the characters and creating something new. It felt like a more honest continuation of that storyline. I The Doomsday Clock didn't work for me, and I didn't like the way that they mixed it with regular DC mythology.
All
I was
right.
like, I don't
Okay.
think that Superman and
Yeah,
Dr.
they were
Manhattan.
building up this whole thing of like Superman and Doctor Manhattan. I'm like,
I don't think they should
Doctor.
exist in the same universe.
Yeah,
They
No.
kind of
Doctor
cancel
Manhattan's
each other
just
out.
way too OP, and
I'm gonna have to
Mhm.
check it out. Like I said, I didn't
You
yeah,
gotta
keep
read
up
up on
with that.
those
I might have to
comics.
check it
Yeah.
out.
It was a
like
great show. It was
yeah.
definitely worth watching.
Yeah, watch
For
most of
me,
it.
I was gonna say Constantine, but obviously they had Matt Ryan reprise his role. He reprised his role on Arrow, and then he went off into like Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
he's
he
in
was able
Legends
to
of
shine
Tomorrow
because
now.
he was freaking awesome. As he's like a very faithful to the comics, and just was really like probably one of the best representations from adapted to actual like a show
Like
or
an
movie.
actual
Like
show.
he was just spot on,
He
perfect.
plays it perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
love
that
it too. I
I
love it.
wish he had his own, but I was gonna say Swamp Thing, because Swamp Thing is definitely one of those
That
Oh,
was a
that's
good
right.
one.
characters
I really
who's
liked it.
super OP and doesn't been like the general public isn't even aware of like how powerful he is. And it was just something that was going on. Like it was good, and like they just had canceled it. Like I'm like, wait, why? Like this was good. Like they in this, giving more time and spotlight to a character who's more obscure but is like incredibly powerful, and most people aren't even aware of how. That's why I was really happy when he was in just what was the movie, the games, Injustice, when he was in
Injustice,
Injustice
Injustice,
2.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Injustice.
That was really cool when he was in there. But yeah, they definitely could have definitely had a lot more to build off of with that character and a lot more to do. And I was just so upset when they canceled it.
I think
Yeah,
it was
I
because
feel
they
you on
gave
that.
it too big of a budget that the DC Universe streaming app doesn't have that many subscribers to it. So I don't think they could shell out the budget for how much that
Yeah,
show
there's
costs.
'cause
That
the
makes
show-
a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, that makes
there's
a lot of
gonna
sense.
with a character like him, there's gonna be a lot of it's gonna be a lot of a huge budget, and if you don't have like the right, even though the show is getting really good ratings, if it's just not getting the viewership, then they're gonna cancel it.
Yeah,
Very
definitely. It's
true.
always the
Unfortunately.
ratings.
But then
the
not a lot of
ratings.
people knew that the DC universe had a streaming.
They
They
kind of
didn't.
need
A lot of people
to
didn't.
roll that out better or advertise it better because the content on there is really good.
It
All
is,
the
it really
original
is.
animated movies, it's
Yeah.
better than most of the DC live action movies. The
Yeah.
animated.
That's what I
ones.
hear.
Animated
Yeah,
ones
that's what I
are
hear.
always
a lot better.
Yes.
Yeah, they definitely didn't market it as good as like Disney Plus. Honestly, like you hear all this stuff
Well,
about like
that's
the
Disney.
Mandalorian.
Disney's-
Well, of course,
yeah,
but
Disney's
Warner
different
Brothers,
because they
I
have so
think,
much
dropped the
more
ball on that and
variety.
didn't market it as well as I think they could have.
They still have a chance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
still have a
I
chance,
feel
they
you.
just need to
Yeah,
rethink.
hopefully
mine.
season 2 Swamp Thing soon or something.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
no. I
man.
really hope they bring back Punisher. That's one I really liked. I hear there are talks of supposedly bringing back a Punisher show.
It ain't
or
gonna be
a
on Disney
movie.
Plus though.
Yeah.
I know it
Yeah.
won't. And even if it's not, I don't really mind it, to be honest. I just really want him to come back.
Yeah,
I really love the show when he was out in Netflix.
Oh,
when they introduced
yeah.
him in Daredevil, I believe.
It was
right?
Daredevil.
It was
yeah,
just like
that
second
jail,
season
the jail
Daredevil.
scene.
Yeah,
that
second
jail
season.
scene was.
Yeah.
But do you
Yeah,
think
dude.
Disney's really gonna do that though? Bring that version of the character back? Because now that they're pushing all the Marvel stuff into Disney Plus, I can't picture something like Daredevil fitting
As-
on.
I
as
don't-
adult, as graphic as
Yeah,
it is.
as
Like,
I
graphic
don't
as
think
it
so
is.
either. But I mean,
well, it's okay. We can have him like in like how they had him in
Or
Spider-Man.
make
like
him
a
a
cameo.
Hulu
Yeah,
show.
exactly.
Just have him like in Spider-Man the animated series where he just used like blaster guns or just like ray guns.
Honestly,
yeah.
if
Tone it
they
down a
made
little,
a
we
rated
get it.
R movie of Punisher, that would be a really good take on it too.
Yeah,
Instead of
really
it
we
being a
had Thomas
series,
Jane Punisher. We had Ray Stevenson Punisher already.
because same
So-
with Daredevil, I hear they're trying to bring him. It's a whole different topic, but they're trying to bring him into the MCU. Same actor and everything that played Daredevil in
Matt
the
Murdock
Netflix
might
series.
make
Matt
a
Murdock.
cameo. Yeah,
Yeah, so
We'll
who
see.
knows? But that, like I said, that's a whole different topic. Mine would be Punisher, though. Like I said.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Punisher.
It's
All right.
just, yeah, I don't know what they're going, what if they have any plans for any of these characters, or at least not Punisher. I think they can definitely do like Luke Cage, Iron Fist, but I don't. It's going to be harder to do
Something so
Punisher and
graphic.
Daredevil, just because
Mhm.
those shows are more, and those actors and those world, that universe was like more graphic than we had ever seen previously in the MCU. So hopefully so, because there's a lot of great stories, a lot of good stuff they can do with those characters, those actors. So I hope
Yeah,
so.
really is. There's a lot of ways they could introduce him into the MCU if they try to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Going to villains. Who would be a villain you would like to see in the MCU?
Craven the Hunter.
Craven.
that was
the
gonna be mine, man.
Hunter.
Oh, I'm sorry if I took that from
Nah,
you.
hey,
It's all
man.
right.
Craven
on.
the Hunter.
Man, everyone's
Uh,
just taking everything today.
That's almost like Spider-Man's Bane, the only one
Yes.
who's
Basically.
ever
Craven the
broke him or
Hunter.
can tear him
Yeah.
apart. They've never done that in live action, so I don't know how it'd work. I always like the Spider-Man the animated series version of Craven the Hunter.
That was
That
good.
was a very good
That one was.
portrayal. Yes.
I just don't know how far Disney would be willing to take it because he's kind of a brutal character, and Spider-Man's gonna have to get really fucked up in that movie.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm not supposed to cuss on here.
No, I think we
Okay.
can. I did
Right.
it. I did it a couple
Okay.
times.
We'll just edit
it
All right.
Nah, you're good, man. You're
But-
good.
Okay. Just
What
making
about
sure.
you, Nick?
Um,
Well,
Probably
you said you were.
yeah,
gonna-
I was really gonna say Craven the Hunter. Probably Modoc. From Iron Man, just because like
Ooh, okay.
he was definitely an obscure character, like more of a character nobody really knows about. So I was really hoping we would see him at some point, like interacting with Tony Stark. It's just the only thing is if they bring him in now, he's going to have to be more of like a Avenger level villain or something, which he can definitely be because he's definitely has that capability. The only thing with me is I feel like they're probably gonna have to tone him down a little bit because obviously the acronym is microorganism designed only for killing. So it's probably gonna have to be something else. It's not gonna be the version that I want to see, but I've always really liked the character. I found that he was always visually appealing or interesting. Just giant freaking head on a chair.
Yeah.
So I was always interested to see him. We'll see what they do going forward. I think they have like more villains in the works, but I'd really like to see Modoc. Modoc is my pick.
Cool.
Cool.
Josh.
Well, my favorite villain that I want to see is already in there, which would be Venom.
Venom.
But everything
Oh,
for
but
me,
that
everything
doesn't
for me
count.
Yeah,
is
that doesn't
Spider-Man.
really
So
count.
I
Doesn't
would
count.
actually like to see another reprised role of Green Goblin.
Green Goblin.
I feel like Willem Dafoe still did a good what was it called? Green
Good-
Goblin in the first Spider-Man, but I would like to see them introduce a new Green Goblin into the Tom Holland. I feel like that would be
I feel
pretty
like they
good.
can eventually.
We'll see
Like,
how
yeah,
that goes.
I
got-
think sooner. Sooner than later. I think they will.
I think aren't they trying to take the approach where they're using villains that haven't been seen as much as because we've seen the Green Goblin a couple of
We've
times.
seen him twice in live action, so I think
Yeah,
I think their
definitely.
approach now is even the only
The
thing
second
about
one
it
shouldn't
is-
count though, but
Yeah, no, that was
I think
considered
so,
like
yeah.
Hobgoblin at least. I wouldn't consider him.
I think that's the thing that they should be focusing on, just villains that they haven't seen it, villains we haven't had the experience with, so that way they can like tell these new stories and not just
Mhm.
rehash the same kind of things. And it's gonna just be
Blackheart.
that's one of the things that just makes this this genre stagnant, is just rehashing like the same villains. So I would do want to see Green Goblin.
Alright.
Hopefully somewhere down the line they can maybe build it up.
So
to-
out of the character, then I would say Blackheart.
Blackheart.
Mm.
I would like to see a
Ghost
live action
Rider?
portrayal. Well, he's Ghost Rider's villain.
Ghost
so
Rider
Rider.
villain.
That I think that would be a good one.
Yeah, I really want to see King the Conqueror come out.
Does Disney still have the movie rights to Ghost Rider? Because I think that was at Fox for a while.
It was. I
yeah,
think
he
is.
reverted because he was in Agents of Shield. The
Oh, that's
Robbie
right.
He was
Robbie
Robbie
Reyes,
Reyes.
the Robbie Reyes
Robbie
version.
Reyes version.
And
yeah.
they hinted
I
at
like-
like he
I
got
like
his
that one.
powers from Johnny
From Johnny Blaze. He got him from Johnny
So yeah,
Blaze.
he's MCU. Like I think Marvel has like all the rights to their characters now.
Hopefully they do it rated R.
Dude,
that would be
that would
awesome.
be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
I
be
think
great.
Ghost Rider needs to be rated R.
Dude.
Well,
Yeah.
You said King the Conqueror. Why,
Yeah, I
why
said King the
exactly?
Conqueror. I don't know. I just really always liked him, just because he's a futuristic, enemy villain. He time traveler, and I feel like with the way the MCU, with the way Infinity War ended, Endgame, and all that,
Mhm.
they're obviously trying to go into new phases, and I feel like he would be a great villain just because we don't know what to expect. Will he really be a villain, or or will he try to act like a good? Well, obviously he will be a villain, but will he try to portray that innocent guy like he did from his past versions when he tried to be like Iron Land? Or I also believe, well, yeah, Iron Lad, right? He was Iron Lad when he tried to portray his good version.
I think
But
so.
nah, no big specific reason as to why I really want him. But I think just the way the MCU is moving forward, I would really want to see him come out because Galactus would be another good villain I would like to see. But I'm leaning more towards King. No
Yeah,
specific reason. I just really want to see him come out.
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, I would like to see Ken come out too.
I'm
He would
actually
be good.
surprised nobody said Doom. I think that's the reason I said MODOK because I assumed somebody was in like one of
I
you guys
feel,
are gonna say
I,
Doom.
I
So
would say Doom, but I mean, there's already so much like leaked footage or leaks saying that Doom is already going to be introduced into the MCU. So I'm
I've
just like,
heard a
I
lot about
wanted,
that too.
so I was like, I didn't want to say a name that's already out there to be in there, like Galactus. Galactus is supposed to be part of the new phase of MCU too. So like, I didn't want to choose him either. You know, I want to
Mhm.
choose somebody that's outside of.
that's actually why I went with MODOK.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
why I guess because it's something we haven't seen as well with King. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
that's it's gonna be interesting.
They need to focus on new villains.
they do. They
Yeah.
really do. You know, so they need to read up on more comics. Not that they don't. You know, but at least read up on something different.
Yeah.
I
So
think it's
different.
also marketing. The reason they pick villains that are familiar. It's easier to get people's attention when you
Mhm.
have when you bring out the more obscure people.
yeah,
It makes
you
sense.
got to think too.
Then you're
They're thinking from a standpoint they got to appeal to the masses and not just cater to
Not just
comic
certain
book fans and
specific.
stuff
Yeah.
because
People will be
you
like,
know
oh, I've
it's
seen him before.
yeah.
And then they'll just go be like, all right, let's go watch it.
Especially, I think that was the appeal of why they were building up the Thanos for so long was because you know they didn't want to just have him drop off and be like, oh, like this is Thanos, and have people be like, well, what?
They
Well,
did a
like, what does he
great
do?
job of building him
They
up
They
over
Yeah.
a
did
course of
throughout,
movies,
yeah,
though.
well,
they did.
like 10 years, just about.
Yeah.
Well, his first appearance was in Thor, right? The first movie.
No, his first appearance was in
Or Avengers.
Guardians.
Guardians.
Well, a
Yeah.
very brief scene when he's sitting on the chair. I think
Oh, and the
Cole.
turns, right?
Who's the not Cole the Conqueror? You said who was like baddie in Guardians?
I can't remember the
brain
name.
fart.
Hold on.
Yeah,
let me
I'm
check
trying to
that
think
Yeah,
of
real
check it up.
quick.
Look it up, Josh.
Let me check that.
Well, anyways, he goes to see him and then report to him that Gamora stole the Mind Stone. I mean,
Mhm.
stole the what's the purple stone?
The
The Aether. No.
That's not the
The
space
Power
stone.
Stone?
Ronan.
Ronan.
Okay.
Ronan. That was the name. Ronan the
I'm-
Accuser.
Yeah, so he goes to see Thanos in Guardians. So that was our first time we actually seen him.
But he's had a lot.
But obviously he looked different than when we actually saw him in
yeah,
Infinity War.
Once we
Yeah.
started seeing the actual Josh Brolin Thanos, then that's when we're like, all right, it's getting serious.
Yeah. I like how they changed the look of Thanos very slowly.
They did. That
Yeah.
chin in the beginning did not.
The
look
chin,
good.
yeah, dude, that chin really did not suit him in the beginning. It's funny, but it was a good change up that
Felt
they
like
did.
someone just
Yeah.
passed the rake through his chin. And
Just-
All right, so let me go ahead and switch it over to the DCU now.
all right, bring it
Well, it's
on.
mainly gonna be the Batmobile. Thoughts on the new Batmobile? You
I
guys
like
seen the new
it.
trailer?
It's a new concept to Batmobile. It looks more appealing since it is in a younger version. It does look more of a muscle car instead
That's
of
what
an
I really like
actual
It
about
looks
it.
like an
I ain't gonna
early
lie.
prototype of the Batmobile. It doesn't look like a fully
It's
formed,
fully formed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
version.
that's what they're saying about this Batman too, right? It's like he's not even where he's Batman yet.
Yeah, he's barely
finding
learning the
himself.
ropes.
more like he's supposed to be in the second phase, like the second year of his career.
The
as
second
or-
year?
Yeah, second year
like
of his
first or
career as
second.
Batman.
He's supposed to. Point is, he's supposed to be very, very early on as Batman.
I would like
I-
to see a Batman Year One adaptation.
That would have been cool.
Dude.
Maybe
That
would've been-
Matt Reeves is going to take inspiration from that a little bit.
I imagine they
that's
had
like-
to
that's like
incorporate
the look,
some
That's like the look
elements.
I'm getting, or like the feel I'm getting from
'Cause-
what they're doing.
That justifies a thinner Batman, just because the way he's drawn in that. I mean, he's ripped, but he's not super swole
Yeah,
yet.
he's not all
Yeah.
bulky.
So-
a
and
little bit,
all
more
that.
lean,
Yeah.
more lean.
Yeah,
leaner
more
side.
lean. So I think that works for Robert
Yeah.
Pattinson.
But I really like the muscle car.
Yeah,
that,
me
that,
too.
that,
Yeah,
that
that
concept,
was
it looks really cool.
I liked it.
So we
And-
all agree.
Yeah, well, you
agree on
got to
that?
figure too because he's a little bit more supposed to be rough around the edges. Like this version isn't supposed to be as
It's less
technologically
experienced.
advanced, less experienced. Like he doesn't have Lucius Fox there to upgrade him and stuff like
Yup,
that.
he's the
So
mastermind behind all that.
I do like this idea because it shows him like he's the one building his suit, building the Batmobile.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna look a little more rough around the edges. So but it goes in line with just the character. He's still figuring himself out. He isn't
Yeah.
like at that technological level yet that we know and we're used to. So obviously we're going to build up to that. So I think it just goes in line with the character development. Like, we're starting from point A and,
Mhm.
trying to get him to point B. So I'm all for it. I think it looks good.
Batmobile,
Yeah,
yeah.
so do
That
I.
one.
And talking about the Batman, which one would be your favorite one overall throughout the
Live action
movies?
only or
Either one, even
Ok
animated, dude.
okay, animated, it's easy. It's the Kevin Conroy Batman, the
Mhm.
animated
Yeah, I would
series.
agree on
Definitely.
that
That was a
one.
good one.
That's the most definitive version of the character. It captures almost every angle of the character. And another thing I like about that version of Batman is that the series is dark, but Batman himself is still an optimistic character.
Yeah,
I like that Batman is a little bit broody, and I understand that his villains are a little bit edgier. But I don't like when Batman is taken to the point where he's an anti-hero, where where he's portrayed as a little bit more selfish and angry. I believe that Batman should be a good person, even though he's broody and kind of
yeah,
dark. I don't like when he's taken too much to an anti-hero edge.
And I think that's the thing at his core, and something I talked about like on last episode was at his core, he cares for people. And
Yeah.
I think the Justice League show did that the best when like the very last episode of the show, and I think it was it was served as a it was served as like a future kind of install. It was in the future, flash forward to
Yeah.
Batman Beyond, when Amanda Waller is explaining that
Mhm.
Terry is Bruce's biological
yeah,
son, and she recites to him the story of
Yeah.
how he helped Ace in the Royal Flush Gang. And
Yeah.
he's like, she
Yeah.
was just saying, like, at his core, like like I've never known anybody who cared more about his fellow man. And I think that's the thing about Batman. Like he's brooding.
Yes.
He makes it seem like he's a dark character, but at his core, he cares for people
I think
deep down.
he's supposed to use or reflect the darkness. He's a bat because it's supposed to be a scary creature of the night. So the idea is that he uses kind of horror imagery against his villains just to scare
Just to
them,
scare
but
them
he's
yeah.
away.
I
not
feel
a
you
bad
guys.
person. Like, have you read the modern day Frank Miller Batman comics?
Oh
Like
god.
I read a
they're
couple,
fucking
not all of
trash.
Nah,
them.
Not is that like the
not
Dark Knight
really.
Strikes Again?
It's like the ones
Or
where he screams at Robin, "I'm the
I'm the
goddamn
goddamn
damn
Oh,
Batman."
he make
Ah, man.
he like turns Dick into the Joker. He like makes him eat rats and like
Oh,
brutally
I
well,
see.
that's
Yeah.
traumatizes
definitely
no.
that's
He goes
Yeah,
around
it-
rooftops like cackling and breaking bones of criminals,
Oh,
and like he
man.
thinks it's funny. It's just a totally off and Frank Miller has written some great Batman stories in this past, but his modern ones are awful.
he really went off the deep end.
Yeah.
To be
Couldn't
honest.
figure
They're
out
just
another
so
way
we
to
fell
go.
off. We fell off of
Sorry.
a little bit off topic. But what about you, Nick? What's your favorite Batmobile overall?
Probably have to go with Michael Keaton, the very first Batmobile, just because
That
that look,
one,
that
yeah.
aesthetic,
That
it really
one's mine.
was
That one's
something
mine
that
too.
looked paid homage to like a lot from the comics, but also was something that was its own and really fit like the design. It wasn't like just a tank. It wasn't. It just really, I just
Mhm.
really like the look and the aesthetic of it, and that obviously is what inspired the Batmobile in Batman the Animated Series. So I definitely have to go with that one.
Yeah, that's
I
my
don't
favorite
think
too.
any of them have ever matched as well as the Michael Keaton Batmobile. It's the one that feels
Keaton Mobile.
closest
Yeah.
like what
Yeah.
the Batmobile would look like in real life. I like Christopher Nolan's version, but that's tailored to something a lot more specific.
Yeah.
More of
Yeah.
a realistic kind of
Yeah.
tone, a realistic kind of setting. But what about you guys?
Yeah, mine's a Michael Keaton one too. The Keaton Mobile, you know.
That's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
to be like,
It really is. It really is. But every time, they have it out at
Universal Studios.
Universal.
Yeah, they have
right?
it.
They have it at
as-
Universal's.
they just
Was it
have it
Universal?
claimed.
or
No,
Six
Warner,
Flags?
Warner Brothers Studios.
Or
Warner
Six
Brothers.
Flags.
Warner Brothers Studios.
Warner Brothers Studios.
I would doubt. They should add it to Six Flags too, since they have this whole
Yeah,
DC
I
thing
thought
to
they
it.
had it there too.
Well, they have like a replica thing, but obviously it's not going to be like the main.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
main, like
but
the
it's still
main
cool
one.
though. That one's my favorite. What about you, Josh?
Well, mine's different. I'll take a different take to it. You guys all said automobiles. I'll go with the Bat Pod from the freaking trilogy.
The Dark Knight.
Dark
Yeah, the
Knight.
Dark
Oh,
Knight trilogy.
alright.
I would
Bat
have
Pod
to go
was
with
cool,
that.
I'm not gonna lie.
That was good.
Yeah,
The way
that
the
was
freaking
cool.
tires rolled when he was trying to just turn, the way he went.
Oh,
on-
that was badass.
Dude,
Yeah,
that
the way
was
he-
probably one
badass.
of the
The
best.
way he
things
just
about it.
They put
skirted,
the engine like in the front wheel or something like that too.
yeah, and
That
it
was pretty
yeah.
cool. Pretty.
And
Dude,
It was
yeah.
also an add-on to the Rumble too when he just left that off. He just
Tumbler.
took off.
I remember the first time
My
I
bad.
saw that, the Dark Knight, when he took off when the Batmobile was stuck, and then he just
Ejected.
Ejected.
and
Yeah,
the
that
engine
was
was
cool.
off.
He ejected.
Everybody in the audience was
That was a
cheering.
great
Yeah, that
trilogy.
was-
that was
a
pretty
great
awesome.
movie.
Dude, it was. All right. So Michael Keaton would be
Michael Keaton, yeah.
Michael Keaton, the overall favorite, I guess.
Yeah.
Michael
Yes.
Keaton for live action Batmans, he's my favorite portrayal, even though I still like the Christopher Nolan movies more. I just like the way that Michael Keaton plays
He
Batman. And
portrayed
I
it.
think he has a better Batman voice than Christian Bale does.
Yes,
Alright.
it
It's a little
sounded like
cooler
Christian Bale was
sounding.
trying a
You
little
save
too
that
hard.
thought, dude. Save that thought. We'll be watch. We'll bring that
Okay.
up a little later, man.
All right.
What do you guys think about the new She-Hulk movie coming out on Disney Plus?
The series.
The
It's a
series, yeah, the
series.
She-Hulk series. My bad.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I've been reading so much about it. Everything that's leaked, everything that's confirmed. Mark Ruffalo is supposed to be cameoing in there
Oh, that's
because
I mean, that
cool.
only makes sense, really.
It really
she,
does,
yeah, I mean,
right?
She-Hulk is the cousin. You know the way she gets her
Yeah.
powers. There's an emergency and she needs to get a blood transfusion. Unfortunately, no one's around except for Bruce. So Bruce helps her. Apparently, the gamma
The
goes
gamma
into her
radiation.
and
The
she
gamma
just
ray.
becomes it. But it's very good. I know they're casting. They want to cast Allison Brie. That's the name, right?
Yeah.
Allison Brie.
Yeah.
Or
They're
they said
trying-
an Allison Brie type actress, but you
Type.
got to be figuring obviously she's the
Yeah.
one they're eyeing to play her.
Well, I mean, they showed this video where James Corden was interviewing her, and she asked her, "Is like, oh, what do you think about you being there?" And
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Oh, well, I made some calls, and then he's like, oh, so you made them?" And she just got like, she just froze, and she's like, "No, I did not call her. I did not do that." So it's like you already kind of know she gave
Yeah.
it away. She messed it up, but I mean, I think she'll play a good Allison Brie. I mean, she'll play a good She-Hulk there. You're also gonna get Thunderbolt Ross, an introduction to him, the Red Hulk.
Red Hulk.
Oh
That's gonna be
yeah, it's
very
about
good.
time, dude. It's about time.
Yeah, no, we're finally seeing a different world of Hulk. You know, we usually just see one movie and then we get a different type of Hulk. So it's good that Mark Ruffalo has been consistent with the Hulk that we
But
have
we
now.
need a Mark Ruffalo Hulk movie.
That
We
would
do,
be
Seems
good.
like it's.
dude.
I don't know if it's ever gonna happen because I think Universal
So
still.
Yeah,
has
there's
rights.
still
that
there's
little
still
issue
issues
that they
right now.
have with
Yeah.
Hulk.
They still have like the final say in if they about greenlighting a movie. So I know but something about Marvel, they
Mark-
would also be in charge of
Mark
like
Ruffalo
the
seems
marketing
pretty
or-
pissed off about it too. And
Well,
they
I
asked
mean,
him
that's-
about it in an interview.
it-
He said, "Why is there no Hulk movies? Because Universal doesn't want to make money."
Yeah,
That was
Yeah.
his response.
and he's right though. He's right,
Yeah,
and
he's
he
legit.
portrayed the role so
Mhm.
good so far.
Yeah, so
But
She-Hulk would be a good series to watch. I think that's a good one because apparently they're saying that she will also be the first Marvel character in the Disney Plus series to jump into the MCU.
Really?
Yeah, so
Okay.
you
I
never
didn't
know.
even know
She
that.
might. We're gonna consider her a new Avenger very soon too.
If you're gonna get Allison Brie to do that, because she's a pretty big name, that makes sense that you
Definitely.
would put her in a movie and not just
Yeah.
on a
Definitely.
TV show.
yeah, the way
That's a
they're moving
good job.
forward, you could tell they're trying to attract
Big names,
big
Yeah,
names,
of course.
movie
yeah.
stars.
Yeah, and it's also like Nick said in the last episode, it's like these characters are pretty known, but they don't have that box office feel of like they'll be making a good movie or.
But everybody knows the Hulk, though.
Everybody
All
knows
you
the
have
Hulk.
to do is
That's
see
why.
the She-Hulk. I'm pretty sure people. Oh, I get it.
Oh,
the
yeah,
Hulk.
no,
It's a
yeah,
female
it's
version
a
of
female
Hulk,
yeah.
version. Yep.
So I mean, that's still a good take. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I
That'll be a
haven't
good
really
one.
read much into the She-Hulk except like Josh was saying, just that it's kind of like the comics where she gets her blood transfusion or blood
Yeah,
from
the
Bruce
blood transfusion
Banner,
from
and
Bruce
that's how she
Banner.
gets her powers. But other than that, I don't know how accurate.
Yeah,
or
no, of course, they need
what
to
the
fully
plot is. You
confirm
know what I'm
everything,
saying? What
yeah.
the plot is
Yeah.
going to be about the She-Hulk. But
Because they haven't even started filming.
You don't
I
want to know
believe.
too much before
You
you watch it.
don't.
Yeah.
either,
You never
so
do,
You
but
can
I-
be surprised.
are you guys feeling cool about the character? You guys like the character? Like,
I think
I'm not
she'll
a
be
huge
good.
fan, but I'm sure they can do something good with it. So
I feel like
Yeah.
since they haven't, like you say, haven't brought out a Hulk movie or they're done with Hulk, but I believe Mark still has a couple movies in his contract.
Yeah,
they're
right?
probably
Couple
like
still,
Avengers
man.
movies, though.
Yeah.
There's never
Yeah, he's-
just
he's-
a
Yeah,
solo
it's never
one.
just a solo, or like who knows? It might.
But
his
like
Like Thor
cameos might count
Ragnarok, they
down.
kind of cheated it a little bit, made it a half
They
Hulk
did.
movie without.
Yeah.
Well, they
actually
try to
doing-
incorporate the Planet Hulk storyline,
Yeah.
obviously. So,
So
Hopefully
That
we
was
get an
their
introduction
cheat
of that in
Exactly.
the series too.
but,
That would be a
I
good
would say
Planet Hulk.
it's not so much that I'm super excited for it. Like, I try not to read up on all these spoilers and just things so
Yeah.
I can, watch it with, open
Open-minded,
clarity and
right?
just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I don't know what to expect next and not, knowing
You actually
whether,
get excited when
Yeah.
it happens. You're
But
like,
it's just she's a character that didn't really fascinate or interest me so much. But I just, really excited to see another female character, get her spotlight, get her get
Yeah,
her,
that's what
get
I
her
like
eye-
about that, too.
get that shine. And I'm just really just as long as the story is good and they do something different and don't try to just rehash stuff that they've done before. Especially if they get an Alison Brie type actress or Alison Brie to do this because I do like her, so I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel the same way. She doesn't really catch my interest as much.
I'll
but
check it out, but it's not the first thing on my radar.
I feel you.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, definitely not that. It doesn't attract me that much. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I'll check it out.
I
I'll
mean,
see how it goes.
overall, you just have to watch them just so you could stay up to date to everything that's going on. Because everything that's gonna be in the Disney Plus series is gonna be with the
It's
MCU.
all
Yeah.
gonna be
So
connected. So
you never
And
want
it's
to
like
get
Nick
lost.
said, you always want to stay
Yeah, like in
open-minded
the
about it.
beginning
You
when
know
you
what I'm
started off
saying?
with Iron Man, then it's Iron Man 2, then it came to Captain America. So you stayed structured in what you're
Yeah,
watching.
that's true.
That's what they're
That's
trying to
true.
do with
Mhm.
us, with the new generation now and the new upcoming Avengers. They want to catch the attention of everybody, and the
Yeah,
easiest
because
way for them to do.
every movie now or TV series is gonna have some sort of connection. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
right,
So leading into the new phases.
Which is
right.
very interesting. That's a
Yeah.
really good take on everything.
Another series that I want to talk about, Loki.
Ooh, Tom Hiddleston.
Loki,
Loki
same
is the
character,
best.
portraying his role. You know what I'm saying? He's coming back for his role.
I'm glad he's
Prequel
coming back.
series, right?
No, this is supposed to be after Endgame.
Is it
After
really? I kind
Endgame?
of heard
After
something about it
Endgame,
being
yeah,
prequel
but it was a
too, but
prequel.
this was months ago. But I don't know
Yeah,
about
Because
now.
I mean, what I've been reading of it, or what I've read my sources from, is that apparently this Loki is the Loki that vanished with the Tesseract during Endgame. You know how Tony Stark was trying to get the
Oh.
Tesseract,
yeah,
and then
that
the
would
Hulk
make sense
smashes the
though.
door open, and then he just grabs
So
the
it's
Tesseract
kind of
and
like an
disappears.
alternate version
Yes,
of that
because the
character
Loki
because
we already
Loki now
have died
died.
in Endgame. Thanos.
So then he's still bad then.
Yeah,
he's
so
still
he's
Because
bad.
that
bad.
Loki at that point in
Had
time
had his
would've-
redemption.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hadn't had his yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so
That's
it's
crazy
gonna be a
though.
good
That's
take.
crazy.
Yeah, just because I believe if it's
That's
a
the perfect thing
prequel-
with time travel. You could cheat so many storylines
Yeah,
with time
dude.
travel, and
That's
it's not a
actually-
villain ananymore. Well, we'll take it to
It's
a
a
time when
love-hate
we're
kinda
villains.
thing
It's like
for a
it's
lot of
okay. It's
fans.
not. It's a different version, or it's not the same
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Well, I
it's a love
mean,
hate.
he's one of the characters that that could jump into like the multiverse too. Like he.
Mhm.
So it's good way of seeing that happen. I know they're also saying that. God, what was it about? Oh, Owen Wilson got casted for it. So they're saying
Yeah.
that
He's
Owen
gonna
Wilson
just
and
be jumping around saying "wow" the whole time.
he's gonna be Justice Peace. So
Nah, but he's a good actor.
He's
I
a good
like him.
actor. So
He's a good actor. I
their
really like
series is
him.
gonna have some good comedy. They have photos already taken with Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston together.
Nice.
That's
So
gonna be
they're-
interesting.
So that's
really
good.
is.
They're also saying that they might introduce Enchantress. That's Loki's lover, or it could either be that or it could be a woman version of Loki. Since, like I said, he is jumping through multiverses, he could be bumping into a girl version of him. Like they said, Loki is leading up to the Thor movie, so we don't know what to expect from it. They're gonna have their own way, but as of what I know, I feel like that's what they're doing. I don't know if it was a prequel or not. Gotta read more about it though. But what do you guys think about Loki? How did you guys like him since the whole Avengers?
He's one of the best villains in the Avengers, so it would be good to see a series.
that
of
And he's
character
him.
you hate
consistent
to
too.
love,
You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And he plays his role so well because he's a trickster. That's what he's known for. He's a trickster.
Yeah,
so
he's
you
the god
never,
of mischief.
so you never
The
really
sly
know
smile
whether.
he
Yeah,
has.
exactly.
Yeah,
that little smirk.
They casted
Yeah.
him good. I think Tom Hiddleston kills that part.
Yeah, and it was really good because you definitely saw that there was a redemption arc for him, and like he was just acting out of spite, out of jealousy, out of anger, and there was just a lot of even though the Dark World really wasn't that great of a movie, what I loved about it was just that relationship and that banter
The whole
between
brother with
Loki and Thor.
Yeah.
You just really saw like Thor was just kind of completely at the end of his ropes with him, and you just really get the sense of like that they were going to be able to like mend their relationship
Mhm.
at some point, and I mean they kind of did leading into it, but even just like one of the best moments for me is when he's visited by his mom in the prison, and
Oh, yeah.
he's like, oh, your father. He's like, he's not my father. And like, oh, am I not your mother? And he tells her that she's not. And
Mhm.
like she reaches out his hands as she like disappears. So she gives like a little smirk, like a playful like you could tell she was hurt, but she knows that he didn't mean that because he's
Yeah,
just
no,
angry.
of course, yeah.
But still, you see like the instant like regret and the
You could actually see tear,
remorse on his face.
like
Yeah.
a tear comes out on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
So I
crying.
definitely am pretty excited to see what they do with this character, since that's
Yeah.
like a different. That's
But
not going to be
they're
that
returning
same.
him to before he was lovable because
Yeah.
when he died in Endgame, I think that's the only time I've heard an audience get sad for a
When he
villain
died,
being
Yeah.
killed.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm-
he's that villain you hate to love.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
he's just
Well
an
said.
asshole,
Yeah, but,
but
like,
at the
with
same
this-
time, you actually see the compassion that he has.
Yeah.
Once it comes to, or like when Thanos is gonna smash Thor's head, like he just doesn't care, and then I don't know, he's like, all right, stop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Here's the stone, like.
Yeah, so I'm just interested to see like what they do with this character and the stories that they tell going forward. If he's just going to continue on that path of being that villain that we knew beforehand, or if he's going to have like another redemption moment. So
Yeah.
I'm just with the possibilities of time travel, it's just
So
interesting
there's
to
2 versions of Loki since one is gonna go off on his own with this new story,
Yeah,
and then there's
Yeah.
and
the
then the
redeemed
one
one,
that's dead.
the redeemed dead
yeah, the
one.
redeemed one.
Okay.
So we're getting a new Loki.
A
So
new
this is
look.
just the Loki that's just been
Loki 2.
And do
rogue
you
Loki,
know
Loki too. And then also, I know you said you wanted Kang the Conqueror to
yeah.
come to the MCU. So another leak that I heard is that he's going to be one of the main villains in the
All
Loki series.
right.
So
I did
I've
not
been
know
reading
that.
that they want to introduce Kang the Conqueror before they introduce Doctor Doom or Galactus. So that's going to be a very good portrayal. I mean, I feel like that's going to be
Whew.
very
Well, I'm
cool.
looking forward to that then. That's for
Yeah, I
sure,
mean,
man.
like you said, Marvel has such a different route that they're taking now. They're introducing many characters that we never intended to see in the big screen. We've always seen them in the comic books, we've always seen in the animated series. So seeing them in live action is going to be really, really cool.
It's a great time to be a comic book fan.
Hey,
Yeah,
most
Yeah.
for real.
definitely, man. Well, now
Well, the
that's how
last
I
10 years
felt.
have been,
Yeah, the
but
last 10 years.
All the
Most,
technology now. You
It's
couldn't
so
have done
easy.
this like 30
Yeah.
years ago. It would have looked
it
bad.
would have looked
I know.
super
Yeah, it would've
bad.
been
And
Y'all
now,
kids
Even
got it
even early
easy.
2000s it looked
We
weird.
had
You
to
watch
read
the
comic
old
books.
Hulk movie with Eric
Have you
Bana and how
seen
weird the Hulk looks.
the
Like,
original X-Men from 2000? There's
yeah.
the CGI. There's
Oh,
a
the
part
It was
where
bad.
Oh my
where Wolverine does that flip with his claws on
or
the statue,
on
the
the
Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
And it's so fake and it's so awful. And I was like, man, back in the day that was so cool. And when I look at it now, I just have to
It's
put
so
my head down.
awful,
It's
right?
bad.
Yeah. But it's
It's really
crazy though, like
bad.
you said back then, it would be like, oh, it's so awesome. Oh, it looks so cool. But then now that we're
It's
spoiled and got the
aged.
better,
Yeah,
now that
those
we got the
effects are
That's
better
just
very
the way,
fake.
like you said, technology moved, like we didn't have it the good way. Like
But that's great
now,
though. I think it's great because now
Yeah.
they could make the movies the way they should actually be made.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So
Portrayed.
it brings everything back to life. It's like, yay.
All right. So what is you guys' favorite animated superhero show?
Batman the Animated Series. That is so
took
Yeah,
another,
Jay,
took another
yeah,
one.
No,
Jay.
you could.
Oh,
I think that more than
man.
one person could discuss
Nah, I
this.
gotta-
though.
I
No,
gotta say
Batman
something else
animated
now.
series was good. Yeah, but
I mean
everyone
that's
has.
one for I mean, I'm pretty sure
For
that
the
was
books.
everyone's growing up too.
I mean, my favorite
It's-
character since I said from the beginning, Spider-Man. Spider-Man animated series was very good.
That was the second favorite growing up.
Yeah, see, that's why we're gonna be best friends, man.
Yeah.
You both like
Oh, there
Batman.
you
and-
go.
What I
yeah,
like
see?
about the animated series is that it's good if you're a kid, but it holds up now. The writing
Mhm.
was pretty smart for a children's show.
yeah.
You can now. I feel like you could watch it as an adult, and appreciate a lot of things in there that you would not have been able to have appreciated
Mhm.
as a kid. Like they have
The little
one-
jabs. There, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, now you're like, oh,
There's
okay,
a
I
lot
know
of
what you're talking
little
about now. Hell yeah.
adult references there that I didn't get as a kid. And then they had episodes like, I don't know, there's one called Perchance to Dream where Bruce Wayne wakes up and his parents are alive. He's not Batman. And I mean, it's all
yeah. I see
it's-
that's one of my favorite episodes. The Mad Hatter
Yeah.
episode.
Mad
yeah.
Hatter, yeah.
That was a great, and the
dude.
reason it's like he actually found out, he actually realized he was in a dream because he was reading something about like when he looked in a book but like he couldn't
read.
he couldn't read it, so he knew that like it was a dream, and something about being in a dream world you can't read, or
You
something
use a
like that, or-
different side of your brain to dream than you do to read, so you can't read in a dream.
Or you can't tell
But
time.
You can't tell time in a dream either.
what I liked about it is that looking back, I was like, they were really trusting kids' intelligence to make a whole episode where there's hardly any action, hardly any Batman. It's just about Bruce Wayne's struggle and confronting the possibilities of what life
Yeah.
would be.
It was
like.
more of a storyline
Yeah.
take to it.
And
Yeah.
I don't think you see that too much in today's kids animation shows. I don't feel
No,
like they
they're too
respect the
friendly now
intelligence
too.
of
Yeah, they're
kids.
too friendly and too
Everything's so
Yeah.
positive.
Too, I guess,
lovey-dovey kinda
innocent,
thing.
too
That-
pure.
yeah,
Too
that's the
pure.
thing about it,
It's like,
because
no,
you,
we want
you-
violence. Come on. Like
That-
Oh, and they had guns. They
Yeah, it was the
bypassed the
first show.
censors. They weren't actually
first show.
supposed to do that. They had guns on Batman the Animated Series with bullets. That went against the television practices, but
Uh-huh.
one of the people in charge liked the show so much that it let it
You let
slide
it
through,
slip?
even
Yeah.
though it's
What?
supposed
Oh,
to.
I did not know
So if you
He's
that.
like Spider-Man. The police
Laser
had like
guns.
laser guns, and the
Yeah.
Punisher
Oh,
had
yeah.
laser guns.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
no,
That's
I do
bad for the
remember that.
Punisher laser
Yeah,
guns.
right. Laser guns. Oh man.
I think for me too, the thing about it is it just stands up so well compared, like all the other shows are very colorful, and they could tell that it was just very 90s. It's like you watch it now and you're like, okay, it doesn't really stand up as well as I thought when I was a kid. But you watch any episode of Batman the Animated Series, and you're just the themes and everything, that the setting and
The
the
aesthetic.
characters,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
it all
most
really
definitely.
resonates. It all really resonates still today.
It was
Um,
drawn on black paper.
Yeah, the first show
Yeah,
show to do
sure.
that.
That's awesome.
Because that's why the show looks so dark. Instead of trying to get white paper and fill in darkness, they just let it all be black and then just build around the shadows. Really unique
That's
look.
really
They
unique. Yeah, that's all creative. You know what I'm saying? That's awesome.
they
But
kind of dropped that for the new Batman Adventures because they
oh
adopted
yeah.
the Superman the animated series style when they continued that series later. Still good, but not quite the same.
I think the thing that always kept me on the edge about that show was the fact of they never really specified what exact time period it was in. Like the look and the aesthetic of the show obviously had a feel of like of a newer kind of film set. Like you think Citizen Kane, you think of like those 40s kind of
Yeah,
films,
that's
the way that
exactly
the
what it
cars
reminds
were, the ways that
film
people
noir.
dressed.
Like
But I remember me and my friend were like watching episodes, like trying to figure out. We were like, okay, there's got to be something that says like a newspaper reading or something that says that what year it is. It was actually supposed to be around the time that it was that the show was premiering because we saw with somebody's ID. We were like looking through it, we froze it, and it said like 1991 and 1992. So we're like, okay, so it's supposed to be like a
it's
modern,
modern,
supposed
but
to be modern,
Yeah.
but the look and the feel of the show is obviously supposed to be like because that fits in with like the design and what they were trying to do with the show.
Paul Dini said that when they were creating the look of the show, they wanted to be like the Chicago World's Fair in 1940 never ended. Like it went
Which
all the
yeah
way
makes sense.
Wow.
until
Which makes
into
sense.
the
Very
90s.
makes
That's
sense.
the
That's
look they were going for.
That's
It still
good.
holds up today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of has a
I-
timeless feel to it.
Plus,
Yeah,
It
we
really
don't-
does.
so
So
good.
that's why I think the creators, I think they knew what they were doing at the time.
Oh,
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Plus, we don't see any superhero shows.
Some of the
being brought out
episodes were
now.
written by comic book writers, like the Ra's al Ghul episodes that introduced him, the Demon's Quest, were
Uh-huh.
written by Denny O'Neil, who was the creator of
Yeah.
Ra's al Ghul of comics in the
Oh,
80s. So
That's
they got
cool, dude.
actual comic book writers to do
Like
that
to
and
do it.
actual fans. That's why it delves so deep and dug into all those obscure villains.
Instead of just trying to get a regular writer.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? To
Bruce
create
Timm
his
and
own
Paul
version and all
Dini
that.
in general with their DC animated universe, they really,
Well, they deserve-
really
they deserve a lot of
understood those
credit,
credits.
'cause
They got those characters so well.
They're pioneers.
Even the Superman the
Really are.
animated series was pretty great too. Not
Yeah, it
as
was.
classic,
It
but
was
that's
good,
a good,
yeah.
really good show too.
Yeah, but Tim Daly as Superman, like so good, so iconic.
Yep.
I
What-
really
what-
like the X-Men. The X-Men
Yeah, can't go
animated
wrong with that.
series.
That
Yeah.
used to come on after Batman the animated
Yes,
series
it
when they were
did.
on Fox Kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. That's
Back
how
to
I did-
back.
back to back. That's why
Yep.
I always liked it. You
Morning
know, so
cartoons, man.
you know,
Everybody
Yeah, it really
knows the
was.
theme song. Yeah.
dude, it was pretty cool because, like you said, it was back to back. It went from DC and then it went to Marvel. So it was like a little bit of both. Best of both worlds, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
And-
before Warner Brothers had their own channel that was on Fox Kids.
Yeah,
so
Fox
and then
they
they
were
Kids.
became
able to
Kids
get rights to do
WB,
different-
and then they
two
brought
different
And then
Batman
they went to
Beyond.
Yeah.
WB.
Yeah, nah, like I said in the last episode, it's because I'm a big Wolverine fan. That's my favorite, superhero, and that's why I always liked watching X-Men, just
They just-
because of him. But I always like Cyclops, Storm, Professor
yeah,
Xavier,
X-Men had a lot of
Magneto.
Magneto's
was
my
cool,
favorite.
dude.
Like
Nightcrawler.
Magneto.
I love Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler.
Beast.
Nightcrawler
Beast
loves-
was
yeah.
dope.
Dude.
All of them, all the original X-Men. You know what I'm saying? I loved it. That's what I loved about that show.
The X-Men 2, the opening scene when Nightcrawler
Is
jumps
jumping
in the
into
White
in the White
House.
House.
That's as awesome as that Wolverine's flip is bad in the original X-Men.
That's very true, dude.
Yeah.
That's very true.
that would be.
All right, so here's a topic, a question that I think is kind of important. How important is accuracy to the source material in comic adapted media?
It depends. I think there needs to be a certain level of accuracy and fidelity to what the characters are and what they represent. I understand that live action is not the same thing as a comic book or it's not a cartoon, so you have to adapt it differently. So I'm not really against making changes to fit a specific world.
All
Kind of
right.
like what Christopher Nolan did. It's pretty faithful to Batman, but it's trying to bring him into the real world.
Yeah.
So they have
Yeah.
to modify the characters. I'm okay with that. But when you go so far off the deep end that it doesn't
It goes
even
extreme.
feel like the character anymore, there's a problem. So I think you could bend a character to meet a certain thing so long as you keep the core there.
Yes.
But when you alter the character to represent something different, that's when it becomes a
gotta,
goes
problem.
gotta
wrong,
stay
right?
loyal to the character. I mean,
Yeah.
you could switch the storyline, but
Yeah.
just don't over exaggerate it. But just like you said, just keeping the core of the
the
character
character.
the most is the most important part.
Yeah.
That's what we fell in love with as kids. That's what we wanted to be when we grew up as for Spider-Man.
What
and
we
everything.
expect to
Yeah,
see.
that's
Yeah,
what we expect to see.
definitely.
So the accuracy
Faithful,
would be pretty good.
But modified is fine
Yeah.
if you need it
Yeah.
to work in live
'cause
action.
like we
because
said,
it's
you don't
different.
always want, yeah, exactly. You don't always want the same thing or repetitive story or
Mhm.
even, like
Mhm.
repetitive storylines or the same kind of action. You always want something different, like you said, keep it to its core,
Mm-hmm.
But change it up a little
Make it
bit.
fit a movie better than it does in a
Yes,
comic
because
book.
that's when you surprise us. You could be like, all right, like we're feeling the character, and then it's like, oh, boom, something we didn't expect. You're like, all right, that's cool.
It's like they like writers, directors, they shouldn't be confined to just the limit of like the comic book world. Like
Definitely.
just as long as because the one thing that really like gets me irks me is like when people say, "Oh, I didn't like that movie because it wasn't like the comics." I'm like,
It's not a
It's
comic,
not
it's a
yeah,
movie.
exactly.
it doesn't because obviously they're different mediums, so they're not going to be like they're not meant to be viewed the same way. I think
Yeah.
Alan Moore was somebody who said that with regards to like why he doesn't watch any of his
Movies.
movies that were adapted from his comics, like Watchmen, From Hell, League of Extraordinary
V
Gentlemen,
for Vendetta.
V for
V for Vendetta.
Oh, V
So
for
he had just said
Vendetta,
like,
yeah.
my books are meant to be viewed in a certain medium, but even a movie like Watchmen got criticized because it was too faithful. And
See,
then,
that's
but
a,
it had its host of problems. Don't get me wrong, but as far as like accuracy, like it was pretty spot on.
it's pretty accurate, but I think that's a little bit of a problem with it is the
Yeah.
Watchmen graphic novel, if you read it, it feels like this really giant, expansive, epic story with a lot of complex themes.
Yeah.
And when you see it in 3 hours in a movie, it feels very
Packed in.
and it feels where I still like the movie. I appreciate it as an adaptation because it's faithful in a lot of ways, but it doesn't work nearly as well as it does as a comic book
It's just the
because it's
clutter.
a different thing.
Yeah,
And
It would have been
that's
better as a
exactly what Alan Moore
miniseries.
said.
Yeah.
But
Even then,
And that's why we
to
agree.
me, yeah, I think it just as long as you're keeping the core values of what makes this character great or what makes this a character
Yeah.
iconic, but they shouldn't be if they're wanting to do something a little bit different, tell a different storyline and not just rehash the same thing that we know about this character or like put them in the same kind of setting. I think that's perfectly fine as long as they're not doing something like what they did with Bane and freaking Batman and Robin, where he
oh,
was
he's a dummy.
yeah,
Oh,
he
he's a
just is like
dummy.
"Bang,
Intelligible.
bombs like that's
It's
already-
funny. He looks more like the Bane from the comic books than the Tom Hardy
Yeah,
version
but
does.
it's
But
still-
the
it's-
Tom
but
Hardy
I
one
still like
still
the
like
comic
you
feels.
books,
said,
yeah.
when
He
you-
acts more like Bane though.
Oh yeah, but like
with
you
the
said, it's like in
intelligence.
that
Yeah.
adapted with Christopher Nolan's trilogy right
Yeah.
there. They had to make it look more realistic.
Yeah.
As for Batman Forever, when they brought in Bane, like it seemed like a parody movie. Like it was one of the worst movies critiqued.
Oh,
but
watch that
somehow-
movie
but
drunk.
somehow to me,
Watch
it was
that
one of the
movie
best
drunk.
movies. I still watch that movie, Batman Forever.
No,
Arnold
Batman
Schwarzenegger.
and Robin.
Oh, Batman and Robin. was
Batman
good
and
too.
Robin. Watch that with when you're drunk with a bunch of friends. You'll be on the floor dying.
Oh,
So I guess
So-
what we're doing tonight,
I
guys.
guess that's something I'm gonna
as
do
long,
later on,
as
right?
long as they're not doing something like that or like something what they did with Ryan with Deadpool and X-Men Origins Wolverine, then
Ugh.
like those are obviously
was
examples
awful.
you don't obviously a little accuracy definitely does matter in a sense, but not so
Yeah, of
much like
course.
where they have to limit to only like what they know or what they've done before.
That beginning sword scene with that was dope.
Yeah,
though,
I mean
when
he was
Yeah.
more, he was more
Seeing all the
Deadpool in those
bullets.
scenes than actual when he was this is Deadpool.
Deadpool.
Like
yeah, when he was
oh my
when they
God,
finally
but-
showed him up and all that.
yeah.
Also feels because comic book characters have grown beyond being comic book characters. They're film characters now. They're cartoon characters, and I feel like when you say it, it's not exactly like the comic book. It's saying the only variations of the character could be made inside the comic book, and then everything has to follow suit. I was like, no, it's expanded into different mediums. So
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
other artists should be able to change things up too. If a comic book writer can change it, then a film
should
writer
be able
Exactly,
to do the same
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, because I mean, it's their take on the movie. It's what they see fit when they're recording. It's whatever.
And
like,
everybody
it's
sees
their
something
vision.
different.
Yeah,
when
everyone
they
has
see
their
the
own
character.
visions, and
Exactly.
that's when you get backlash from everybody because you want to follow just your own, but it's something that it wasn't a take from everybody else's aspect, and then when they see it, they're like they disagree. And
It's bigger than all of us, though. The
Mhm.
Yeah,
superhero
no,
genre
hi,
has
of
gone just between
course.
just
Exactly.
beyond
No,
comic
of
book
course,
fans.
come on,
Exactly.
Comic Con, they have a lot of those going on, so you
Yeah.
know that the superhero world is very,
It's
very
very
extensive.
It's
It's very
extensive.
big.
It's
It's worldwide.
expanding.
Growing,
It's
expanding.
growing.
And it's only
yeah,
growing.
dude.
It's
It's
only
gonna keep
growing.
on growing. Yeah,
I hope the
exactly.
DC movies can get their act together because as a DC fan, I was resistant to seeing all the Marvel movies done so well. I'd be like, God damn it, DC! Why can't you do anything as good as the
As Marvel.
Avengers?
I feel
or
the same way
anything like
too,
that?
though. I
Like,
think DCU has a lot of catching up to do.
like,
They
because if you
do.
compare, like,
Mm.
I don't know, like, Captain America: Civil War to Batman versus Superman, I was like, they
Civil
don't.
War takes
For
it all
me,
the
that
way.
does not even come close.
But
Yeah,
hey,
Civil
at least
War.
for DC, since
have
we're
another
getting that
question
at
for you.
those movies that aren't that good budgeted, hopefully they do have room to grow, you know? So maybe the future of DC might be a little bit brighter than Marvel. So since Marvel is
Hopefully.
going strong,
I like Wonder
hopefully
Woman,
they
so
don't overdo it and then they break off and then they fall down. and then DC takes over, which could happen. Like I said, since the movies that DC had brought out haven't been that great, they only have room to get better.
They have a handful of good ones.
Mhm.
They have a
Talk
handful.
about fight scenes.
Fight scenes.
Favorite fight scene or best fight scene that you guys think?
Man, there's a lot.
That's kind
There's
of
so
hard.
many.
There really is. That's why I like when I think about this topic, I'm like,
Since
Like,
you
I
said,
think
since
the
you said
the
Civil
airport.
War,
Yeah.
yeah,
Civil War.
yeah,
Civil
Bucky,
War.
and Bucky,
Damn you,
Iron Man,
Josh.
and Captain America. That last scene was great, breaking off the shield, breaking off.
Spider-Man did great in that Civil War.
Oh, when he
fighting
came in,
scene. Yeah, when he came
I
in.
love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's the shit.
That probably is my favorite one too. Another cool action scene is one I already brought up was Nightcrawler in X-Men 2 when he breaks into the White House.
That was-
that one
Just
was
playing out the
badass,
whole
Yeah.
like using his powers, like and teleporting like that was really cool.
That was really cool.
Using his acrobatics with the teleportation, that was awesome.
And that's 2003, I think.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the effects still hold up. I don't
Yeah,
know
they
how the
still-
ones
yeah,
from
it
the
really
movie
did.
from 2 or 3 years older looks aged, but the one that came out 3 years later still
It
looks
came
good
out
today.
perfect.
Honestly,
Yeah,
with the technology that they have now, they try to make it seem so realistic. It takes away from it. As like I said, like when we were growing up, we didn't have that technology, so everything seemed a little bit more legitimate.
Mhm.
As for now, since they have all this green screens, they could add so much stuff. It sometimes takes away from it. Sometimes I feel like it seems fake. But like the old movies, like the Spider-Man movie with Green Goblin, for me, that one seems so realistic. Like I don't know. That's just my take on
What
it.
about you, Nick?
Because I definitely there's the fight scenes and animation have been getting a lot better too. But for me, you can never go wrong with live action. Just knowing that stunt people like really took falls, they had to take hits, they had to go flying through glass or whatever. I'm definitely gonna say Batman's warehouse fight scene in Batman versus Superman.
Oh, dude,
For-
that was gonna
for-
be my.
that was a
Oh
good one.
man,
All of Zack Snyder's faults, and there's from his narrative standpoint and not having any freaking solid cohesive storyline in any movie he does. He's very good from a visual perspective and from an action perspective. If you watch any of his movies, all the action sequences are very
perspective,
The
good.
yeah.
visuals
they
aren't
are,
the
dude.
problems with his movies.
No, it's his narrative.
And
He
it's-
doesn't know
it's
how
And
to
a
do
it's
a
narrative.
narrative.
funny.
Yeah.
The best
Yeah.
thing for me he's done is Watchmen, and that's
Yeah.
because he's following a pre-existing
They
text.
didn't
pretty
have a
well.
script. It was just all storyboarded from Watchmen. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but going back to that, because I actually had known some of the stunt people that were involved in the Batman versus Superman fight
Oh no.
were
way.
people that I
Really?
follow. Yeah. And it was
That's
just
cool,
the way it was just like the way it was filmed and just all the really showing Batman as like this master martial artist and not
Mhm.
somebody who was like a brawler or was like clunky or clumsy like Christian Bale looked at times.
Mhm.
You really got this sense that and it just really catered to like his powers and his abilities. I'm on say powers, but with his using his technology and transitioning hand to hand and they just really did a lot like striking, grappling, takedowns and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
it
a
was
good
just really
adapted.
good and the way that they were filmed, the way that it was cut and edited, like those longer sequences and less close-ups and stuff like that. You see that fight scene and just from a perspective of just how the
Yeah.
audience views it, it's so different from how American productions film their fight scenes. Like just it's just great from on
It's
any level.
impressive filmmaking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Agreed.
the realistic point of view, I would have to bring it back to DC, Batman and Bane. When they're in
which
the sewer.
Oh.
and the
When
sewer one.
at the end Bane just breaks freaking his back.
I almost jumped up in my
God.
seat because I didn't think they were gonna have the balls
like-
to actually do that.
Yeah, when he
scene.
actually
Dude,
said,
it's
"I was
snap
like,
back.
they're
gonna do it, and they did it.
I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, they got to do it. It's just so iconic.
It was.
Nightfall.
No,
Yeah,
So-
what Bane hit him with? Like, oh, you
Oh,
like
he's
like
like-
to
he's like,
live in
you-
the
he
dark.
sees
but
I
was born
grew-
in it,
born
molded
in
by
it.
it.
Yeah,
We
I was
gotta
like,
really
sound like
adopted
Sean
it.
Connery when you see it. When you say
molded
it.
I can't.
Whoa,
you
you
think
molded
that?
it.
This is your-
What'd you
Dude,
guys
but
think?
Tom
I
Hardy,
think-
he was
Honestly,
he did
the good thing about that, what you brought up, that because Christopher Nolan doesn't have good action sequence, or at least like hand to hand fighting. He's not really good. If you watch like the Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, he just completely falters. And you
The
can tell
bigger
but-
action sequences are good.
Yeah, yeah,
like
of
the
course,
like
of
the,
course.
Yeah, oh,
the
yeah.
bank robbery
Oh, that
or
bank
the
robbery
whole
scene
thing
was
like racing through the
amazing.
streets.
Exactly.
Are
Oh yeah,
good.
great.
Yeah.
But as far as like his like when they're doing like hand to hand, and that's just something that faults like a bunch of productions in America. But the final fight with him and Bane, it was actually better from a perspective of just how it was filmed and
Mhm.
the design of it, like longer takes and just they didn't have to it wasn't
Yeah.
frantic or kinetic.
Yeah.
And I was just the fight choreography isn't that great, but just the fact of like you're kind of feeling everything and you feel the tension, and it's not like they're trying to
I feel like
hide
the
things.
sound
Like,
design makes up for it a little bit
Yeah.
because Batman's punches sound really hard.
yeah,
They
Yeah,
I think
they
in
do.
Batman
Damn.
Begins, you don't really see him very well. I think that's the one instance where the sloppy hand-to-hand combat works good.
That's the
Because
one
when
with
he
Scarecrow,
first
right?
comes out,
Yeah.
this one's a
Yeah.
Scarecrow. When
Yeah.
he first comes out, and you just see like kind of sloppy editing and criminals be taken out.
Yeah,
It's
it's just-
supposed to be like you're in the headspace of criminals who he's coming out of
Mhm.
here. You don't see him.
and he's like
kinda-
just incredibly quick and agile, and just
Yeah.
you don't have a chance again. He's like a one-man army essentially.
yeah.
Yeah, now Josh took mine. He took mine too. I was gonna do
Oh.
either Civil War
mean,
or those were my only
I mean-
options
Well,
to
he's
be honest.
still-
But
so
I
he's
still
still
really like them.
Daredevil.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Oh, the Daredevil and the
Daredevil's
Punisher.
a lot
I mean, I
Oh,
said it
dude.
earlier
Yeah,
too.
we
That
spoke
Punisher
about
scene, that jail
earlier.
scene with the
Yeah.
Punisher at the end.
Yeah,
just killing
dude.
everyone,
But
that
nah,
was
those are
good.
both great fighting scenes. All these scenes we were just talking about, they were pretty great.
But
Yeah.
there's still a lot. I mean, you had the biggest fight scene that has ever been shown, which is the Endgame one. What do you guys think
Yeah,
of
but
that
I don't.
one?
That was
really
good,
feel
but that's
like-
not one of my
yeah, I don't feel like
favorites.
it was
Just
Too
too
much
many
action.
people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's too many
Right.
people.
Too
You have,
many
like, have to
people.
It's
go around, like-
impressive considering how much they were dealing with, but I
Mhm.
think the airport Civil War scene
Was
outdoes
way
it.
better.
But
Oh,
the
yeah,
movie
of
still
course.
rocks. Like,
yeah,
the
the
movie's
movie
still
rocks.
awesome.
But the fighting scene wise,
scene-
yeah, fighting
yeah.
scene wise, I think
There's
Civil
too
War
many
would be
characters
better
you have
one.
to go
Yeah.
through, and like you can't really feel a personal connection because it's like, oh, we need to show Cap, we need to show Iron Man, we need to show
Mhm.
Black Panther, we need to show Spider-Man. So it's like
It's
you
only-
don't really get the sense of like a connection to it because it's just like,
Mhm.
oh, I want
Exactly.
to. There's all these other
Mhm.
characters and like cameras.
But I
just,
do
like,
give them their
panning
props
over-
though, like you
Yeah.
said on
Oh, yeah,
Endgame,
it was
how,
good.
how
It was good, but
because especially how everyone was separated as well too. But they still
They were
give 'em
working
their-
with a scale that was kind of beyond belief.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for how big it was, I think it was
The
managed
execution
well.
was good. Yeah.
I also think the Civil War fight scene is a lot more
Yeah.
colorful and funny to look at too. There's more
Especially
humor
with
into it.
Spider-Man,
Spider-Man
on
and
there,
Cap.
anything
Ant-Man.
with Ant-Man. yeah,
Spider-Man and
they were the
Ant-Man
two
make that
perfect
shit,
ones
yeah.
to be like not against each other, but like they're both
Mhm.
funny guys on each team.
And I
you
like
know?
Tom
Yeah.
Holland for bringing
Iron Man and
those
Captain
80s Star
America.
Wars things too. You know, like, have you ever seen that old
Oh,
movie?
yeah.
that really old movie.
That
I-
really old. He's all Tony. Where'd you find this kid?
Like, I don't know.
funniest-
He's on the younger side.
He's on the younger
when
side.
when Star-Lord is what is it? Flashdance still the best movie ever made?
never
And
was.
He's like it never was.
never
And then he
was.
looked really hurt when he said that.
Oh, yeah,
And then
Star-Lord?
Iron Man, and then
Yeah,
Iron Man's like, don't
dude.
add on to, don't give him.
That was
funny.
funny, dude.
Yes.
All right. So what we were talking about a lot about Batman today, Batmobile. What do you guys who do you guys feel is the best Batman ever?
Live action Michael Keaton, and it's kind of weird because Michael Keaton doesn't look like a Bruce Wayne. He
That looks a
doesn't
little
even.
goofy, honestly.
Yeah, he does.
He
He doesn't
does,
even have
but-
like the physical build of it.
No, not at all.
Nah.
But when he's in the suit, he has I don't know how to describe it, but the look in his eyes and the determination
Mhm.
looks so singular that when I look at him, I believe that
He's
person
actually
is
Batman.
that driven to dress
Mhm.
up like a bat. And because his voice and his the way that he said if you compare the I'm Batman scene in the 89 Batman to the way that Christian Bale says it, the Christian Bale one is kind of laughable when he
Yeah.
It just sounds,
Yeah, his
it just
voice-
sounds
yeah,
kind
just
of
his
forced,
voice.
honestly.
Forced.
Yeah,
And when
he's
Michael
like-
Keaton
he's
says
trying
it-
his hardest to be intimidating. Like,
it's
his
trying
act-
too hard. And when Michael Keaton says
Had a
"I'm
cough.
Batman," it's just cool.
It comes more natural.
Yeah.
to
It's
you,
more
right?
natural.
More natural.
definitely.
And because I like that Michael Keaton's version of Bruce Wayne looks slightly uncomfortable with everything that Bruce Wayne is. He looks uncomfortable in his skin and he doesn't look like he's himself
But when he
Okay.
puts
until
on
he
the
gets
suit,
into his suit. So that's
Yeah.
an interesting interpretation of that character.
yeah.
Even though Christian Bale physically looks like it more, he's more of a Bruce
appealing
Wayne.
to
I still think that Michael Keaton had a more interesting take on the character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna go with this. Most people probably won't agree with me or would think, okay, you're weird for saying this,
Val
but
Kilmer?
I'm definitely gonna go with Kevin Conroy in Batman the animated
Oh,
series. Obviously,
alright.
he's voiced the character for so long, and there's so many different versions of the character he's done. But I'm gonna
He's
go
the
with Batman.
definitive Batman.
Just
Yeah,
because,
he's a
like,
definitive Batman.
Especially
Yeah.
like the thing that really
just
gets,
like Mark Hamill was the Joker. no
yeah,
matter
Yeah.
The
what.
thing that really gets me about it is people try to say, "Oh, he's just a voice. He's not." But when you're portraying, you're so many different aspects of a person.
Mhm.
And you only have your voice to do it. It's like you have to like show your body language, your tone,
Yeah.
your mood, and just
he-
the fact of
He also my bad. He also portrayed. He portrayed Batman finally in the Crisis movie. No.
he portrayed an older
older version
older
of Bruce Wayne. I thought that was pretty cool
And the
too.
Yeah,
Time
that was
Crisis.
awesome.
My bad.
I
My
hear
bad.
his
No,
voice.
yeah.
That's cool.
When I read the comics, I hear Kevin Conroy and I hear
Always.
Mark Hamill.
Always.
Those are the
Yeah,
voices that
dude.
come out. To me, they are
They
the
are Batman
Batman and the
and
They are
Joker.
Joker.
exactly,
The
yeah.
other ones are just great
They
versions
made their
of
mark.
what that is.
Settled,
Yeah.
guys. Settled.
It's just the fact that characterization, just because also part of it was the writing, just because he was
Mhm.
written so well, but
Yeah.
just the way Kevin Conroy portrayed him, Bruce Wayne and Batman, like you just got to go, you just got to give it to him. Like whenever you hear him, you think like, oh my god, this is Batman.
Mhm.
And this is the fact that he's voiced this character for so long. So I think it's more of a nostalgic feeling for me because I've grown up, all my life only hearing
Hearing
Kevin
that
Conroy
voice.
Yeah.
as Batman,
I
as
feel
Bruce
you.
Wayne. So like he just really takes it for me, and it's just like no
Yeah.
comparison.
Because there's so
honestly.
many different versions of Batman that he played, so he didn't just stick to one. He played
Anytime I
multiple
hear
ones, and
that-
for him to kill that role in every single one is
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. He's played like I don't know how many different versions
A
of
lot.
Batman.
I mean,
Different
Yeah,
shows,
dude.
what was
video,
it? Since
video
shows,
games,
video games,
That's awesome.
animated
Yeah.
movies. Anytime I hear Kevin Conroy or Mark Hamill are going to be reprising
You
those
gotta
roles, I
watch.
get
You gotta
excited.
watch
just
it,
Oh,
to
yeah.
hear
hear
it out,
Yeah.
everything,
Well,
dude.
what about you guys?
Yeah,
What's your-
mine's Michael Keaton for sure, dude. Just that's who I grew up watching. I was,
nostalgia.
yeah, just stick with me. You know what I'm saying? Stick with me.
That goofiness. I know you guys are gonna say something, but George Clooney.
George Clooney.
I just thought it was
Damn,
fun.
I
And
was
like,
That's
not,
very
not,
questionable,
not,
but
say, not
okay,
saying that he
okay.
was like, I just watching
Let's-
those movies with
Well,
him
he
was
looks
very
like a
funny.
Bruce Wayne.
It just,
he
I don't know.
has,
It was just
I
like a
guess-
parody to me. It just looked funny. They just entertained me
Oh,
the whole
dude,
time. But
that's-
if I'm getting serious, I probably would have to say Michael Keaton. Other than that, Christian Bale after.
Nah, don't lie. You probably have a
But-
Batman credit card on you, don't you?
No, I
From
Batman Forever. The
Don't
credit
ever-
card
you can
says-
tell-
You take credit.
You could tell Michael Keaton was uncomfortable in his batsuit though in his
Right.
movies.
Well, they didn't have he didn't have the ability to turn his head.
Yeah.
Other
dude.
than
He was
that,
like a
I-
dog or penguin.
Other than that, I thought the suit looks really cool. I like that
Oh,
the
yeah, the
ears are
suit, yeah.
extra
The extra
pointy.
pointy,
The suit
yeah.
I
was
wish
cool,
I
but
want
just
them to
imagine
get
how
back to
uncomfortable
the
he was.
pointy ears.
That would have been good, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Ben Affleck's Batman did not have no ears. It was just like a little.
That is small.
But
Yeah,
they
for
were
real,
trying to go
dude.
more for the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah,
But
you
you
can
can
tell
tell
that's
with
what
the
they were
big
trying to
logo.
do.
big-
Yeah.
The big logo definitely looks like Frank Miller's
You
The Dark Knight Returns.
Josh Brolin was originally their first choice for that version,
Oh, dude,
and
I
I
didn't know
actually
that.
think that he would have been a much better version of a Dark Knight Returns Frank Miller Batman. He's more grizzled. He has a voice that fits it more.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck has to force himself to be like that. I feel like Josh Brolin would have just
Played it
been
more
that. Yeah.
natural. Yeah.
But I think as far as like just who in a physical comparison, I think Ben Affleck probably takes it. 6'2",
Okay,
That makes
yeah,
sense, that
yeah,
makes
a
sense.
That
solid,
makes
like
a lot. He's
2
just
something. Like he definitely
was
fit
big,
the role.
yeah.
But
He
as
had
far,
that-
and I don't think he did a bad job. He was like, especially with his looks and aesthetic, he did look like a Bruce Wayne.
yeah.
But for me, live action, you got to go with Michael Keaton just for the
yeah.
fact of
He's definitely
you know
my
he
favorite.
didn't have to try so hard to be intimidating like what
Christian
like,
Bale
I
tried.
think as I got it used to be Christian Bale, but like with time and I really started analyzing like all
The
the scenes and-
performance holds
yeah.
up better for Michael Keaton than it does
Yeah.
Christian Bale,
You-
and it's a lot older too.
so much so that
Mhm.
like it just feels like Christian Bale is like is forcing it so much, especially from the Dark Knight Returns. I mean the Dark
Dark Knight
especially from the Dark
Rises.
Knight, the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises. I think he sounds better as Batman in certain scenes in Batman Begins. Like where he's not trying, he kind of just speaks more subtly.
Mhm.
Honestly, I feel like
It's
that's what he should have went with, or that's what he should have continued with going forward.
But I still like the Dark Knight more than either Batman or Batman Returns. Even though there's a lot of aspects I prefer,
Right.
that to me, the Dark Knight to me is still the full package as far as a Batman movie goes. It's hard for me
I
to
could
see
agree with you on
anybody
that. I
How do you
Yeah.
think Robert Pattinson is gonna sound as Batman?
I hope he's good because Robert
Ah.
Pattinson is actually a really good actor. If
He
you've
is.
seen
Yeah,
some of
no,
the
he-
stuff
yeah,
he's
no,
done,
of course.
it's too bad a lot of people are going to associate him with that fucking Twilight,
Twilight
shit. But in some more serious movies, I don't know if you ever seen Good Time
yeah,
or The
Water for
Lighthouse.
Buffalo,
He's
that was
really
good.
he's a good actor. I could see him
He's a
pulling
very
off a
talented
young.
actor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
this,
why-
this is exactly the topic we were talking about last week because
But he has that voice too. He has
that
deeper
voice.
Too, so
He's an
hopefully
underdog.
He doesn't
All I
over
was saying is
exaggerate.
he's an underdog, but I feel like
I feel like he fits it a little more than Ben Affleck for that specific version they're
for the
going
role.
for.
Yeah,
I mean, you're
Yeah.
going for a younger, more less experienced, just fresh off of training Batman, like fresh
Yeah.
off his travels and stuff like that.
So I guess we'll say Michael Keaton until we see this new movie, right?
Yeah,
Consensus
live
is Michael
action.
Keaton.
Live,
Live
yeah,
action.
live
But
action.
overall, Kevin Conroy.
yeah,
Kevin
Same.
Conroy, yeah,
Same.
same.
Overall.
Agreed.
So coming into our last topic right now, what's your favorite pre-MCU superhero movie?
Damn. There's so many.
It's so
That's
many.
hard. Fuck.
Now I'm gonna go with something that's a little bit more obscure. You guys hopefully won't say this. I'm gonna go with Blade 2. I
Blade
was just
2. Okay.
honestly, that was like one of the biggest things that really started getting me into Blade was watching Blade 1 and 2, more specifically Blade 2, because I think a lot of that just goes with Guillermo del Toro. He did this perfect combination of like action and horror elements with it, which is obviously like, vampires, you think, it should have an element of horror in it. And then growing up, I'm like, why did this movie? Because obviously the tone and the mood of the movie is different from the first and the third one. And I'm like, why is that? And then I remember, I look into, Guillermo del Toro, I get a little bit older and look into his story, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, of course that makes sense. This guy's a horror icon. Of course it's
Mhm.
gonna be like that. I just think it really had that perfect blend of like action and horror, and the action sequences are very good. Wesley Snipes just kills it as Blade.
He does.
And it's just something that it was just something that always was like it always had a soft spot for me. Just with I'm somebody who loves action, and I really like the horror elements that he had. The Reapers and the story that they told.
And
I
it was
just
a new take too.
yeah,
Yeah.
It was
and
a
it's
brand
just
new
at the
take.
time I didn't even know that he was a Marvel character. So it's
Yeah,
just
no.
and it was just crazy that he was an R-rated movie, and he had two movies before like X-Men, before
Mhm.
Spider-Man. Like it's just so crazy just thinking about that.
It is good.
It's a good
Blade, I
choice.
give you
How
that
about you,
before.
James?
I don't want to say another Batman thing, so I'm gonna go on and say Spider-Man 2, Sam
Spider-Man
Raimi one.
2.
Only because I
Nice.
remember I love the first one and I remember seeing it as a kid and my jaw being dropped, but the second one felt special when I saw it. I thought it
With
was
Doc Ock.
exhilarating. I thought it was funny. I thought the drama was good. I loved Alfred Molina as as Doc Ock.
Oh yeah, he.
I thought the
Yeah.
special effects had improved. Tobey
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maguire
they
was
did.
good. It was just all around the full package. It was fun. It was exciting.
Yeah.
It was everything at that age I could have hoped for out of a
Uh,
superhero movie.
I feel you.
And I've seen it so many times, it still holds up for this day.
Yeah,
Spider-Man
definitely.
It
2,
really does.
just one of
Doesn't
my
get old.
favorite superhero
Yeah,
movies,
definitely.
period. Still one of the
Definitely.
Just
best.
Tobey Maguire alone, he's a great actor and portrayed
It's funny.
Spider-Man cool.
I've liked every actor who's played Spider-Man, even if I didn't like the movie surrounding it. I even liked Andrew Garfield, even though I wasn't a fan of the
The
Amazing
movies.
Spider-Mans. I thought he was a good version of Spider-Man and would have been better in a better movie.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like they
Yeah.
did him dirty.
That's
Yeah.
where a lot of the characters fall off. We follow the movie instead of the character too. So it's like if the character doesn't fit the movie, we automatically think, "Oh, that character sucks." But
Yeah.
like you said, no,
I
they
don't think there's
portrayed
been a
it the
bad
good. Andrew
Spider-Man
Garfield did good.
portrayal yet.
No, I
Yeah.
haven't seen a bad one either. I
What
would
about you,
agree with
Josh?
that. Since, like I said, you guys said no Batman, me too. I would have to go with X-Men 3.
X-Men
X-Men
3.
Ooh, yeah, bringing
These
Jean,
are really
bringing Jean,
controversial
bringing
choices you're
Jean
making.
as I don't know, man. I just
okay.
like Jean. I like Jean the way they brought her as the Phoenix. I like the way that they killed Professor X. That made me feel something. When I saw him
Yeah.
just get destroyed and look at Wolverine when he's just like stuck to the wall, I was like,
It hit you, huh?
it hit. I was like,
Mhm.
It
yeah,
hit
man,
you.
he's gone. He's gone. What the hell?
I didn't even see the newest one, the Phoenix one.
No,
'cause
not
don't
the
they
new,
do-
the old one.
No, I know.
But the
Yeah,
new
yeah.
ones.
They
Oh, the
did-
new ones were. They depicted it pretty good. She kills it.
I
Sophie
didn't watch the
Turner
new one,
as
yeah.
Jean, she did good.
She did good.
Yeah,
okay.
now mine would have to be X-Men Origins.
Wait, was that
Wolverine.
before MCU?
Yeah, I believe so.
That was your favorite?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't connected.
was
It wasn't connected.
controversial.
To
It wasn't
the MCU,
connected
It
to the
wasn't
MCU.
connected. So that's why I consider, I guess,
Okay, yeah.
pre-MCU because it
Yeah.
wasn't connected or not involved with
Well,
it.
It's
we'll
still
count it.
it's
We'll
still
count it.
continuing a series that started before the MCU.
Yeah.
We'll count it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
X-Men will be coming in.
Well, the reason why I guess I did like it was because I thought they were gonna, because they introduced, Gambit and then, Deadpool, and they had these other extra characters. But I really liked it just because I really thought they were gonna move forward with these new characters.
Mhm.
I was really expecting that to happen, but it never did. It never really did.
Mhm.
But that's part of the main reason why I liked it, just
Yeah.
because of the character. I really like Gambit. Gambit's a
Yeah.
Gambit's
really
my
cool
favorite.
character,
One of my
dude.
favorite.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's why I like gambling, but like Gambit, just the deck of cards, the way
That
he
was
could
like-
do it,
I
it was
feel like
pretty awesome.
He has
Dude.
one
They
of
need
the
to
best animated
really
characters,
work on
too.
doing a good Gambit.
Well,
Like
they
a
did.
full-
We
Yeah,
got,
they
we got
were-
Channing.
They were talking about
Channing's
Channing
gonna save the day.
Tatum doing the whole
Is he
Gambit
even
thing,
still
but
considered?
Is that
for
still
it?
going?
I don't. It's been like 5-6 years. Like he's been.
I feel like
it's
I've
been
heard about that
in
so much
development.
that
I
I
think-
don't really.
I think because he's finding the right person to work with, to be honest.
I don't know. There's been no updates about it. So I
Yeah,
don't
there
think-
isn't.
I
I
don't
think
know.
they're
I
keeping
mean,
it under
if
wraps.
he
right
waits too long, he's gonna be too old to
It
play
could
the
only
character
dream.
at some
Yeah.
point.
now. Yeah,
They
who
gotta-
knows?
they
But yeah,
gotta
mine would
do
be
it.
X-Men Origins if it counts, like you guys
X-Men
said.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, dude, I still want to see what's gonna happen. They do have Deadpool, Deadpool's already out with Ryan Reynolds, but I still want
Mhm.
them to really bring out
All right. So
bring
what
out
would be
Gambit.
your favorite MCU movie so far? If you had to choose one.
My favorite one so far.
Well, I don't think
Since
we have enough time for that right now, do we?
Nah, I
we
think we could bring
could
that up for the
Yeah,
next
that'll
next
be
time.
for
topic
next
Yeah,
for
we'll
for
talk
another
about
next
that
episode.
time,
another
you
time.
know. So all right, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. This is
Yeah,
the
no, of
Heroes and
course.
Mutants
Appreciate you guys.
podcast.
Yeah,
Thank you guys.
appreciate it,
Thank
guys.
you.
Like
Follow
I
us
said,
on Instagram.
subscribe,
Subscribe to
like,
us.
yeah, just keep listening. Thank you for
All right,
joining us.
appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.